Brilliant.
And now we're straight back in. No, we should. We should. Behind the scenes, let's go. Right. Do I want to stop recording and we have a little debrief, or do we just quickly go into the questions and get it out of the way?
So to you, have a little debrief. Or somebody might. Do we want 5 minutes to get a drink or a coffee or anything and come back?
I'm okay, man. If you're okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, all right.
I got subtle hints there, Lionel, that you wanted to grab a coffee.
No, I'm fine.
No.
Let's crack on.
Right. I'm leaving all this in then, because we said this is the boys relaxed, isn't it?
Okay, so this is still recording.
Yeah. And I don't want to be professional anymore. I'm sick of it. Right. So. Right. Here we go. Right. Here we go. Right. Aythami, we do a little thing that we've only ever done on the first 2 episodes, and then we forgot to do ever again. But what it is right. You have 3 categories, okay, to choose from, okay, and it's just a question or a statement or a fact. It's not a big deal, even though I wrote them. Interesting facts about Warhammer, real life facts, okay, fantasy Warhammer facts, Games Workshop facts. So you just pick one of those categories.
Can you repeat me all, please?
Warhammer.
Yeah.
Real life, just like nothing to do with Warhammer at all. Fantasy or Games Workshop?
Not Warhammer, please. Fantasy or real life.
Right. Real life. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, we can do 2. Okay, and now just pick a number between 1 and 7.
7.
It's a rubbish number. All right. The longest serving store manager at the time of writing is Rod from the Southampton shop. So, a little shout out to Rod, apparently. It's an interesting fact. The Southampton shop has the longest store manager of all time.
The Southampton Games Workshop.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, and he is called Rod.
Hello, Rod.
Oh,
Hi, Rod.
Oh, Roddy, if you're listening, which you almost certainly are not. Shout out to you.
Maybe we can get Neil from Exeter to tell him to watch.
Yeah. Right, and I'll do a real life stat just because they're, in my opinion, actually quite interesting. Right, pick a number, 1 between 100.
Whoa, 30. 30.
Okay, 30. That's how old I was.
And how old I am.
Yeah.
Oh,
You're 30, are you?
Yeah,
see,
yeah.
we were
You
musing
young
this
son of a
before you
bitch.
came in the car, trying to guess how old you were.
We said 20. In fact, I think, Lionel, you said 12.
Whoa, that's real low. I appreciate the 21.
It was more real. Okay, right-handed people live, on average, 9 years longer than left-handed people.
Whoa. Interesting.
Little Jamie stat there for you. Now, that is me done.
We got a question on Instagram from one of our friends, Pascal. He asked, the question's twofold. He says, can you ask Aythami what inspires him most in general, and which artist does he find the most inspiring at the moment?
The artist that inspires me more at this moment is Lucas Pina. I think that we forget about the sculptors, and the sculptors is like 60 or 70% of the work.
Yeah.
And Lucas Pina is amazing. He's doing an amazing job. He's like grabbing ourselves and letting inside his world, his fantasy world. He's amazing. And Raúl Latorre, I love him. And talking about artists, Roman Lapat is amazing. Also Joshua Lay. I think that this is the best representation of stories in miniature.
Yeah.
Feshenko does amazing works.
Yeah.
And talking about miniature painters, that's different. I think that now Arnau Lázaro is one of the best in the world now. But this can change in 1 month, because this is the good thing about it. Also, David Cowell has done like a troll.
Yeah.
And I mean, did you see the amazing troll of the?
Yeah.
Is
like
this with the little rabbit?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that it's amazing.
Yeah. I wanted to copy this. I saw this after I started my crappy dragon, and I thought that's the blue that I want, and I was like, but it doesn't fit. But the vibrancy and the it looks like it's illuminated.
Yeah, it's amazing, because also it's surrounded with dark, and surrounded because with warm tones. So you can do that with your dragon, because your dragon has really warm tones, and you can get the blue, the pure blue. That's the true one.
Yeah, I just thought I'd bring it because people need to be educated. I also thought, again, this is one of the pieces where it looks simple, but you know, again, I'm like, I could definitely do that, and then I realised
I
you're
can't
like,
do that.
yeah, I can't even get close. But I always think it's a compliment when an artist paints a piece that's mind blowing but looks really simple, because for some reason it feels harder.
His I really like his box art that he's recently done as well for that new company. Is it a Norwegian company where there's is it First Wave, I think it's called, where there's a guy in a fairly dynamic pose holding a spear.
Okay.
But he's done that in the last month or so. But there's some nice ambient lighting under there. I mean, yeah, he's a very good artist.
It's a cool one. Another one, Mark Masclans is amazing. The Theory, the Witcher figure that's doing now. I think that like he's connecting his incredible studies of anatomy and color with a bit more of aggressiveness in light, a bit more of interesting touch in light, and this combination is amazing. And also Banshee, obviously, because he has to paint more. Okay, it's like he did his job years ago, like breaking a bit the community, but he has to paint more.
Yeah.
Also,
I'd like to make a joke and say lazy, but he'll kill me for that, so I won't make that joke.
That's the word, man. That's lazy. Ruben Martinez is amazing. Ruben, and there's tons of more there. Tons. And the thing that inspires me more depends a lot of the figure, but in general is life. I go outside and I see a beam of light, or see the cast shadows, and I start studying why they are more blur cast shadows, stronger. I go to to see a film, and if the film is bad, I pay my attention to all the lights and to all the studio photography that has the film, and mostly about life, but also illustrations. When Jamie wants to paint a dragon, a good way to get inspired is to get to Pinterest or to get to Google and place dragon and start searching and get all the ideas you want and mix it to create your own style. That's why I don't feel like pure originality exists. There are grades, levels of originality. There's all invented. That's why my web is called Not Original Minis, by the way.
There's a saying that there's nothing new under the sun. So it's kind of the same applies to the hobby. It's everything there. Everything has been done.
Yeah.
Iterate and make it better.
Although I do think a dragon with feathers is quite original. Just saying.
It has a high grade of original.
Yeah.
Closer. Just in case viewers don't understand my sarcasm, because Lionel and Peter have both said a few times they still don't get it. I am joking, even though it is bloody original. Yeah, it's still a joke. Interestingly, while this lady here, the shadows, did you paint them dark, or did you just go over the dark wash?
I first went outside. I searched. I made a video and see what the colors would be. Then I painted with the brush. Then I painted with the airbrush, and on top with dark tones, and on top of that, I got a diluted clear tone of wall with the airbrush, and start airbrushing in the areas that was more far away of the principal center of the wall, because if you close your hands, you will notice that you create shadow between them. That's like an effect that's called ambience occlusion light or occlusion shadow. And even in the days that there aren't light, you see that your feet with the floor, it creates a little touch of shadow. So I wanted to create this in the center of the wall, and in the side, like create this blur. So it's a mix.
I noticed because Roman said, guys, all you have to do is look outside and then everything will be good. Basically, I find it interesting that you, better artists, your observation's a lot pinpoint, a lot more acute. You see more stuff than your average.
It's training, man. It's only training.
Mm.
So you've taught yourself to look at that. That's you don't think you've had, because you talking about your background in terms of, I painted a bit of Warhammer 40k, then I went to university, discovered alcohol and women, didn't do it, and then came back to art. We all did that. We all trod that path, but we're not all producing art like that. So I think you've got, and I think there'll be a modesty there where you don't say it, but I think you've got something inbuilt, a natural artistic spirit within, that you just see stuff differently to anybody else. Because like I said, the story you've told about how you've got to where you are is probably quite a commonly trod path amongst all hobbyists. But the leap in terms of what you've produced in that short period of time is huge. So I think there's an element of, as Jamie said, just bringing back to Jamie's point, you probably see a lot more than we do anyway on an instinctive level, as well as practicing on top of that natural ability as well.
Yeah, I think that maybe you're right, but it's a thing that is trained, as you say. I will. I don't know what's the. I recorded with the phone, but I have in my mind an illustration that a horse like gets bitten with a tiger and just placed in an iceberg. I don't know exactly the illustrator, but I spent the other day like 45 minutes trying to understanding that illustration. So the clue is, I think one of the clues is force yourself trying to understand and trying to think about the thing that you are watching at. And the more you train this, the more you say, well, here maybe means this, or what color here, what. The more you train this, the more you force yourself to enjoy and observe art, the more you'll be able then to translate it to your figures.
How do you feel about that, Jamie? 45 minutes looking at one picture.
Mate, I do that all the time.
The good thing about this is that I understand and I get the idea that the more you see one piece, the more of yourself projects. For example, in the one that I painted with the mask, some of the students, I asked the question, they told me that she is part of the Mad Max this one, but this is because they saw Mad Max. So it's like a part of your heart, of your experience that you place in your figure that create this duality between you and the figure, and you put a bit of yourself in it and a bit of the artist vision on you.
It's mental, really, isn't it? Just the level you got to. I mean, I think one part of me is like, it's basically inhuman. And then the other part of me is like, well, you're a professional. You paint, I don't know, 8 hours a day, maybe?
Yeah, a bit more, maybe.
Like, it's, I mean, I really like painting. I like it a lot, but I don't have that motivation. I think in some ways, what separates you guys is a need for money, a love for the art, and the fact that your dedication is it has to be more than your average.
Mm.
Like the thing is, but then I liken it to when I write programs or websites. Like when I get in the mode, I could spend like 12 hours a day writing code.
Yeah, because it's your passion, man.
Yeah, but also because I don't get stuck.
Yeah.
Whereas on painting, like I hit brick walls all the time. Whereas in coding, it's harder to hit a brick wall.
Yeah, but I have a friend that's also a programmer, and my father is also a programmer, and the thing is that it's also solving problems, right?
Mm.
It's getting the quicker path to create the algorithm.
Yeah.
So with the paint is the same. The only thing that you guys has left is to be really good at the technique, and when you know how to place an exact point with the exact shape and with exact dilution, with exact degradation, you will be able to do whatever you want. That's it. The technique is towards your imagination. You can do whatever you want.
So
you know the technique.
So it's like Pete says, it's like learning any craft. You've just got to put the hours in and put the work in.
Did you say that, Peter?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when I say JFDI, that's the short version of that.
You can say it now though, because this is the adult version of the show.
Yeah, we're more relaxed now, Pete. You might as well just say what it is.
Well, you just got to fucking do it. You know, just get your paintbrushes out and actually attack your models, and then you'll get better just by doing. And observe stuff.
Yeah, it's because Lionel takes so long and never posts whips. It's a joke. That's because I post them. Because you didn't get my irony again.
You know, so you overthink it. That's when you get stuck because you kind of think too much.
Yeah.
And if you've got some kind of reference that is there as your inspiration, then that kind of is another area which will kind of help when you get to those blockage points where you just can't quite get past it because you've got your source of inspiration there, you know, printed out by the side or you, whatever it might be. Be like a mood board, you know, that sort of thing where it just gives you that edge.
That's the best advice, man. If you have if you want to create a non-metallic metal like Kirill Kanaev, just print a copy of the project and try to copy it, try to understand metal, but try to copy, because the mainly problem is that we get lost and we don't know how to do this. But if you have to only place the stroke in the same area than Kirill, just do it. The only thing you have to get is the technique well.
I find technique easier than the other stuff. I think for some reason I got it in my head when I got back into this hobby, whenever it was, that copying was cheating. So I go out of my way to not copy, and now I'm like, maybe I should just copy until you understand.
Yeah. It's misunderstanding that copy itself with anything else is bad. Yes, I agree. But copying, but understanding why the reflection does these things, or why the metal has so high contrast, where does the light comes through? It's affected by the sun. It creates cast shadow. Why? Understanding the color. When you understand all things and you copy at the same time, the knowledge you absorb is amazing. Is enormous.
Yeah, it's interesting because I copy code all the time and I don't feel guilty. But for some reason, like when I'm copying here, I'm like, it feels like I'm not learning, but I think I will get over that. I'm gonna run next door. My daughter's crying her head off, but I'll be back in 2 seconds. You don't need me here anyway, so.
No.
I think just carrying on with that thing about copying, because with painting, there's kind of two things you're learning, isn't there? So there's learning the physical technique of your brush stroke and applying the paint, and then there's also the kind of the knowledge and learning of where to put that. And so you've got two things. So you're only copying half of that when you look at somebody else's piece and you try and replicate what they've done. So I think it's a good idea. I think having something like that to as a practice, as an exercise, is probably really worthwhile.
Yeah, that's it, mate. And it is the way we learn things. We aren't like really talented artists that we are born with that. When we are child, we copy our parents. And when I was a child, when I wanted to draw a dinosaur, I copied the dinosaur. I copied. So that's the way, and then you understand things. But first thing is try to replicate the ideas or the references in your art.
One of the questions that popped up on your Instagram stories as well, asked by one of your followers, was, when doing OSL, do you light the piece first to see physically where the light falls, or do you just make it up as you go along?
It's a combination, because but and 99% of the clue here is just getting in your mind and paint. But at 1%, before I start painting, I place it in a bulb, and I start twisting the figure to see the own sculpt doing his work. So it's a combination. And a good advice that I told Jamie is that if you control Photoshop, when you are about to paint, just place the colors and place the light bones in Photoshop and see if they work. And also with airbrush, if we use the airbrush and place that 2 or 3 or 4 lights, the airbrush is the best tool to control this, the OSL.
I think so. When you've got some of that really subtle, there was a picture which was just on the screen of a girl with some swords, and there's like a red light on her kind of side, like a sci-fi, a silver breastplate, but there's like a red, like a really nice kind of pinky red color, which is really smooth transition. Is that something you would have done with an airbrush, or would you have? Would that be thin glazes, or?
You can do both. I do it by airbrush because it's a bust. But if we want to do it quicker, you do it by airbrush. But you can do it by brush. But by brush is a lot of time. So airbrush is better for me. It's quicker.
Yeah. Okay. I think I need to get a bit. I use my airbrush a lot for base coating and the kind of the initial colors. So like I paint some Space Marines and they're yellow, and so the airbrush then is my friend because it means I can get the yellow down and all the shadow and the highlights quite nicely, quite quickly. But what I don't do yet, or haven't really mastered in any way, shape or form, is that kind of using my airbrush to do the smooth transitions, but then also some of that finer work with the the lighting. I'd almost be a little bit daunted by trying to use it after I've painted to try and add in some more color. But I think maybe I just need to be bold and just
to don't screw your work. Yeah, I understand you, mate. But it's again trying to learn new things and trying to break these limitations. The more you break them, the more you learn.
Yeah.
Scary though, isn't it?
A little bit.
When especially if you've painted a model, like when you were talking about the woman with the shadows on her face, and you said you would do that airbrush, like the idea of that would really that would scare. I know it. Like the more you do stuff, the more comfortable you get with it. It's naturally,
but one assumes when you go in with the airbrush again like that, you're doing very, very thin glazes in order to build it up. So that way, if there is an error, you don't ever overstep too soon. Is that right? Or
excuse me, can you repeat, please?
So in terms of even when you go in at the end with the airbrush like that to build a shadow, one assumes you're doing it so watered down that it's not a case that you overspray and that's it, the model's ruined. You do so many layers that you've got such a large margin where you can stop that it's very difficult to ruin the model.
That's it, mate. When you want to unify. You do it with so thin water that you can't ruin your work. And a thing that I discovered lately, like months ago, is that the airbrush is really quickly, okay? And I wanted to do smaller dots and smaller shapes. So I can't do that with my airbrush. So the solution was copying the stroke of the airbrush with my brush. So the thing I do now that I trying to develop a bit and trying to experiment is doing a glazing glaze dot technique. Is with the dilution of a glaze, you get only with the tip of the brush, you dry really well in the paper, and you do this exact motion of the airbrush. That's dotting in the shape on the facial feature you want. And the magic of this is that you create a smooth transition, and it's better to using this to create circles or to create like circular shapes. And it's
Like a sphere,
I always show in the videos, and because it's really difficult to create circular shapes with normal strokes or normal glaze strokes. It's really difficult. So try this technique. Maybe it's useful for you.
To be fair, if we pay on your website, we could see it.
Yeah, if you pay. Well, you don't have to pay. You have to pay with whiskey.
That's my favorite currency.
I think I'm definitely going to be having a look at Not Original Minis this weekend.
Yeah. Good times. Well, 26 minutes we're on for this little cheeky video.
We've got another question here just to get it in.
Smart.
Another one from one of your followers. How do you thin down all your heavy body acrylics or the artist acrylic graded paints? What do you use to thin those down so they're more easy?
Lately I use water, but I tested a lot of things. I always testing. I use glaze medium from Vallejo. Mm-hmm. It's like you create like a transparent paint that you can stain with other color, and it's very useful because it's transparent and it's also thick. So to do glazes and to do some certain effects is useful, but it's better for me to use water because you get used better to these things.
Yeah,
it's cheap as well, isn't it?
Yeah, cheaper.
Yeah. Oh crap! I bought the only one without. After one of your videos, Aythami, do you remember these paints you recommended? The Miami.
Whoa, that's a big bottle, yeah.
What's that?
It's acrylic, isn't it? Right.
That's and, like.
Right, and the problem was I bought the primaries, yeah. So yellow, red, and blue. Yellow, yeah. Wait, what? They are the primaries. Yeah. The problem was because I bought them from Poland, right? And it was like £3 extra for like a 1 kilo tub or the small tubs, and I was like, well, obviously I'm going to pay the £3 extra and get the. So they were like I don't know, like €15 each for these tubs.
Yeah, they're really cheap. Yeah,
super cheap.
What manufacturer is that?
It's not important, Lionel. The most important thing is that we're all friends.
He's holding his secrets back now. Look.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's because I took the label off. So it's these guys.
I can't read that.
My Mary Polycolor.
So what are the properties of that paint that are so?
Have you used it since that model, Aythami?
What? Excuse me?
Have you used it since the Ranger? Have you painted with this? Yeah.
I used this like the first figure I used it was in Carmen, the gypsy one. But I used it because a good friend Sergio sent me as a gift. But I get used to this paint because they are really fluid, okay, and they are vinylic. Nice. Vinylic, and that means that when you give a stroke, the stroke doesn't break so easily. But the golden ones are better ones, and
cheaper though, isn't it?
The schmink are also in the same level. The good things about my Mary is the cheap, because it's really cheap to buy them.
It's an outrageous cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're really easy to work with, I think, because they're they have a lot of, like you said, they're liquid. They're not as heavy body as the golden.
Yeah, and also they are really matte. The red is really matte. Okay. I don't find brands with matte red.
Right.
Yeah.
You'll find out Jamie doesn't do things by halves. If somebody recommends a paint to him, he will go and buy the entire range. I know he tried some paints with Alfonso, and then he went and bought the entire range.
Inks, mate. They were inks.
Inks,
yeah.
And scale 75 as well.
Oh yeah, naturally. However, now Lionel, I am at a point now where, and I like your thumbnail, Aythami.
Do you see me?
No, we don't.
No,
no.
Excuse me.
Your battery might be low. I know that now. I did think this last night, Lionel, that while I was painting, I was like, actually, I pretty much have everything I need now.
No more excuses.
No more excuses. The only excuse I have is like my lack of actual skill. I really do.
I think sometimes what you do is you go and buy, so that way you can say, well, I don't need to paint this yet because I just need those paints to arrive in the post, or I need that brush to arrive in the post. Because in the short space of time I've known you doing this cast, you buy a lot of product, like where
anymore, mate.
Worth.
Not anymore.
It's like you are afraid to paint. I have now
exactly what it is.
Desk, I have now in my desk like 10 bottles of paint only, because this is a limit that you have to break. And another advice is paint always starting with the primary colors: yellow, red, magenta, and cyan, black and white. You will be more creative. You will create better mixes.
Well, so to force himself to paint an entire model just in primaries.
That's what you did on the Ranger guy, if I remember the videos correctly.
Yes, that's it. I started with the Ranger guy. I didn't stop. All the newest figures is painted with the primary ones. Yeah, this is because an advice from the great Alfonso. He told me, man, just get a wet palette that is bigger than this. Bigger, and start painting and start. In my case, he told me, man, don't use references, because I was in the good level and the good period, good time to break and to get a bit more of myself in the project instead of using references. But because I spent like years and years and years and years getting that knowledge in my brain.
Yeah.
So it's a creative exercise to don't paint with references sometimes.
Have you tried his paint set?
Try what?
Alfonso's paint set.
The artist.
He's just released this one. I haven't had a chance to try it yet, but the idea is the paints are specially selected that you can mix them and create pretty much any color you want, or hundreds of colors. Have you had to play around with that yet?
Yeah, I think that in the last video I did a review with the Cast Shadow Girl, and the review was that they were really good paints, but in the level of Vallejo, of scale, I think that they are really a bit more high level than these ones. But Golden, Schmink, and for me, my Mary beats them. And again, the bottle that showed Jamie, it will list like a life. You have to send us paint, because with spending in the best quality is Golden. You spend like, I don't know, 50 euros in a few bottles, and you have for all the life. So it's another advice. Just spend for a good quality paints.
Yeah.
But again, the scale 75 are good ones. If you don't want to spend so much, I think that these ones are the best cheap ones out there.
But they're tiny.
Yeah, they're tiny. Yeah.
Which I always feel a little bit bad when every squeeze I'm like, I've only got like 5 left. I'm like, whereas, with this guy, you're just like, you never run out.
Fill up a cauldron.
But I did transport them to these tiny pots.
Yeah, it's easier.
Also, I didn't have to paint. It's beautiful. That's
what you did the last time you ran out of excuses. You decanted all your paint into dropper bottles. And now, if if there was ever a reason to just be putting off painting, that was it.
I must admit though, what tends to happen with all this crap I have is I actually just paint with like a really small selection, if that makes sense. Like I know I have all these things, and it's just so I don't have to worry. But when I actually do paint, I'm trying to find. I took a photo to try and show you, like of the actual paints. I always use the primaries, and then I realise I don't know what I'm doing. And the brown, I think the like snakebite leather, right, which is like brown and yellow, is my favourite brown of all time. I find it really hard. Anyway, it's hard to recreate. We digress.
I love the red leather of Vallejo. I love it.
Yeah. Can you recreate this easily with primaries?
Yeah, if you have control, yes.
Can you do it?
I think so. But an interesting thing about painting with primaries is that you can't create an interesting, and when I say interesting purple, I'm saying vivid and luminosity purple with red and cyan. You can create a better purple with magenta and cyan, magenta and blue, okay? That's why you have to work with red and magenta. Not only with red.
Magenta. Did I buy magenta, or do I need to get the old?
Yeah, you have to get the big bottle of magenta.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's red. That's red or magenta.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. It's a tough one.
Magenta is something I think I'm probably missing. Actually, I've got a lot of paints. I've been painting for a long time, but I think a decent magenta is something I need to think about, because it's I don't know really what I'm looking for with magenta, because it's kind of one of those
Vallejo, the magenta of Vallejo. Magenta is really good. It's really good.
Okay.
Magenta is what? Red.
It's red.
It's a deeper red.
Kind of red.
Yeah, it's a red with I don't know, with in the feeling is like a purplish red, so more or less.
Like maroon, but a bit deeper.
Maroon, yeah, it's more blood-like, I would have said.
What we think of as red, how we were talking about how red and green are kind of those, the colours in between, which can kind of complement, can be cool or warm and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So red is like the really warm version of magenta in many ways. It's like a almost like an orange.
Yeah.
But so actual magenta. I'll look at Vallejo's magenta in that case. I think
it's really good. And also an interesting thing is that you what's that? The primary color, the primary blue of golden is like a dark blue, and the primary blue of scale 75 is like a more light blue. So it's impossible to create a saturated emerald using the golden primary blue. You have to use the scale or the Vallejo or the primary blue to mix it with yellow to create an interesting emerald.
I do think it's like a quicksand. It's like a trick. If you use the wrong primaries, you spend all flipping day going like, why is this not working? And you think you're crap, because mostly you are. And then you realise Alfonso comes and goes, Jamie, what the hell are you doing? This is the wrong blue. And then he brings out a blue and he's like, and then it's like done, and you're like,
it's a whole world.
Yeah, I think it comes. Well, it does. It comes with experience, but it's still amazing to hear you guys talk about colours with such fluidity, like with the knowledge being so deep. Yeah, Peter got it. These are the paints that I've been using for the last 3 weeks, and it's like 80% ink.
Yeah, I see a lot Alfonso using ink, and when I painted the helmet of your Eldar in blue, I wanted a really saturated blue, and I didn't find in normal tube a decent blue, so I use an ink of Liquitex ink.
Yeah.
And the reason I don't use inks is that they shine a lot. But the solution is quite simple: get ultra matte varnish from Aka, and you get it.
Yeah, that stuff's magic. That ultra matte, just I've never seen anything quite like it.
Yeah, it's the best one. Yeah.
It's bonkers. Do you ever mix it with your paint, or do you spray it on after?
The two things. When I have a red that I want to get rid of the shine, I mix it with the red.
Yeah. Sneaky. Yeah, I think
when I want to paint to give ultra matte varnish directly, I paint it with the airbrush directly without water of anything.
Yeah.
Brutal. You're not scared? God, I'd be so scared.
Don't be scared, Jamie.
No, I'm not that scared, but you know, just I did fuck anyway. Fuck it, it's all good. Look, it's very liberating being able to swear, isn't it?
Yeah, man. The day you control so well the stroke that you're able to do anything you want, you will start doing anything you want, and you wouldn't be scared.
Yeah.
But joking aside, you're at the point now, aren't you, where you aren't as scared as you used to be? Surely.
Yeah.
I'm talking to. Sorry, I'm talking to. I know.
Okay.
I know you're not scared. Obviously, you're very scared. But Jamie keeps saying he's scared. You can't be as scared as you used to be, because the one thing Alfonso said to us is, don't respect the model in a way, because a lot of people pick up this model like it's made out of gold and I can't make one mistake and I've got to really respect it. He said just don't respect the model at all. Just throw paint on it.
No.
And the worst that comes is that you just put more paint on it afterwards to conceal it. So you must be of that mindset now.
I've done that, and then after 2 days of painting with Alfonso, he goes, "Oh, there's not there's not much detail left on this model. Let's start the other one." I think this tends to happen though when I'm mixing my own colours and trying to. I find that I try to find the colours on the model, and this is so like I play with the model because I don't understand the colours enough, how they interact. So I'm almost mixing on the model, which is obviously creating thicker and thicker paints. You lose the details, which is why I really like the idea, Aythami, of putting it on the palette. Like I do mix on the palette, but not so structured. I don't say, okay, I'm going to make 5 greens. I know you said it in the past, but even so, it's a very different way of thinking. I normally create the green that I want at that moment, and then I paint that. I don't make 5 greens to give myself like a mental idea.
Yeah, it's like you create opportunities. It's the way to break your mental like limits that you're creating, because you have in a visible distance the options to break it. Is like that greens is there. You have it. You don't have to make effort to break it.
So if you were painting, let's say, a green space marine, let's make it simple, or that ultramarine there, you would mix 10 or so different blues onto your palette, and all those blues would find their way in some shape or form on that model, or are there some that you would just negate and go, no, I'm only going to play with 4?
Yeah, that's it. You create the enough opportunities to work with all, but in the end, maybe you work with 5. And in the middle of the process, maybe you have to create another new mix. It's like a combination. It's not that you have to play with all the tones you have there. No, you in the middle, maybe you need a magenta skin, and there's not that magenta in your palette, so you have to create it. But you have all the most amount of opportunities in your palette to be more creative, to be more fluid.
So in your works, do you use anything straight from the bottle, or is everything mixed to a degree?
Yeah. I hate using pure colors. Well, hate. I think that there's a rule for me that when I want to create a realistic character, I don't use like from the bottle tones. That's pure red, pure blue, pure yellow. For example, these greens is mixed with purples in shadows, the red is mixed with a bit of pink, so I don't create this effect of I call it the toy figure effect. Is that a figure that you can't believe it in the science fiction world.
Was that
the
an of I don't?
Tell me, Jamie.
Lionel did an and it sounded like I'm skeptical or I don't.
No, I agree. What's interesting is hearing you talk is a lot of the phraseology you use and a lot of the analogies you use are very similar to what Alfonso says. I mean, some of the things that and what's interesting is that you are all saying the same thing. And we've now had the opportunity at Mini Matters to speak to a number of established artists, masters, and when you drill down to it and you talk to them all, you're all actually speaking the same language. Although you're coming from it at different angles and you're expressing yourself in different ways, the base knowledge, the base teachings, and the manner in which you approach it is fundamentally the same. Which is why I did that because there was that connection, that realization in my head that I thought that they're all saying the same thing.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because I talked to Alfonso a lot, but a lot of business problems of this, like money, but we talked really less. I could say less about art, about miniature, and it's quite interesting because some of my students tell me the same. Man, you paint like your things that you're saying. It's the same ones that Alfonso, but I never. Only the color part on the palette. I never learned that things from Alfonso. I learned that things by observing, but it's quite interesting that both, like you just said, with different paths, when we have a similar vision of the
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I think so. That kind of almost illustrative effect of your painting, I think, there's a similarity, which is quite fascinating.
It's funny that it lines up like that. So this dragon's available to buy if you want to buy. But right, so like I think what's quite good actually is when you've had these models streaming, and then you switch to a model by myself, you realise quite quickly the difference. Like because hold on, camera. Like it takes. I think it's interesting that you guys, like you say, your brush, your placement, your everything is quite on point. So there aren't very many brush strokes, whereas I have to spend a long time refining to get it to a higher level. I mean, it makes sense, just naturally that it would be that way. But it's still interesting when I've been looking at your models and I look at mine and I'm like, the contrast is quite big. Even though when I finish this, it might look okay. It still shows the lack of understanding of like volumes, contrasts, if you understand what I mean. And that's why Lionel, when you're saying, are you not scared? Like, I've improved. I've got models that are better than I've ever had before, but I still don't feel like in any way like an artist, if that makes sense. I don't feel... it's not that I'm scared now with brush placements, but I do feel like when I paint, I'm just wasting my time. Obviously, I'm learning, but I'm not getting... It's a bit like running in sand.
I think the comparison you've got to make
in roller skates.
The comparison you're going to make, and it's very easy with the likes of Instagram when you see images and you think, "Oh, I'm not going to be as good as that." Is Aythami is a full-time painter now, a professional painter. So for every 1 or 2 hours you're grabbing a week, Aythami's doing that in a day. He's obviously pushing himself. You said as well, it's your job now, so you're motivated that you've got to produce the results in order to a degree, pay the bills. And I think sometimes you need to put that into perspective when you look at high-end artists such as Aythami and Alfonso, and compare it to your own work.
But do you think, though, like, I'm not sure that a lot of us guys, even if we did it full-time, would improve massively, but you still don't think you'd be... There's got to be, like, a higher echelon of gifted people who... Do you know what I mean? Like a base
I don't think so. I think it's a lot of training, man. I have a friend, Manuel Lolo, that he never saw this, and his capacity of analyzing art and observing art is amazing. Amazing. Is a training. It's training, and the thing you have to do is train and don't having your brain so high objective. Okay,
Yeah.
don't compare with the guys that are better. Just paint in the level you want and compete with yourself and forget about anything else. Your time will come because the secret you have it there. That's passion. That's getting out that you love this. So if you love it, you will get all the tools to go to courses, learn from the best, try and explore and experiment, and to get better.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. Mind blown. But yeah, I think that's great advice, really.
Yeah, we all my students, sometimes they are like they want to go really quickly. They want to know the recipes, they want to know the secrets, and it's all about you have to be patient and knowing exactly that, guys, we are in this hobby like when we were little childs. We will die painting. So we will die painting is the best way to see your own art, is that you have your passion enough to spend the time needed to get the level you want.
Yeah, I think that's the culture we live in at the minute, where everybody wants things instantaneously. They don't want to have to wait. They want that new thing, that new car straight away. Painting is much the same. You know, I think they see these images on Instagram and think, well, I've put in 2 weeks' work, I should be at that level. What they don't realise is how much work that artist has put in behind the scenes in order to get to that level and craft.
That's it, mate. That's it.
Reminds me, I need to order a pizza because they can get here in 20 minutes. It is brutal, though. I still don't believe that social media is like, we've had this discussion before, haven't we? Like it's really dangerous and it's really helpful.
It's both. It's how you view it. I think it's down to you. It can be very dangerous if you view it in the wrong way. It can be very encouraging if you view it through the right eyes. For example, like Aythami said, if you spend 45 minutes looking at that one image, you'll probably learn something. So I think it's down to you how you interpret the images you see and what you take away from it.
Tough. Iron Skulls tomorrow.
Oh yeah, is it tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow morning, 9 p.m. My football game got cancelled due to Storm Jorge, as we like to call it. And
Are you going?
I'm going to go now. Yeah, I wasn't going to go, but I'm going to enter my elder. No, I'm not Aythami, but wouldn't that be funny? Yeah, that's my piece. When did you paint it? Just a while ago. Just been sitting on it. I gave it. No, this is role play. I'm joking. This is all. That was me talking to the judges, explaining that I painted it.
But in all seriousness, are you going?
Yeah, I am going to go.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I'll take all the gear as well, all the cameras.
Guys, what's it? Is a contest there near your home, or what's?
Yeah, it's a contest in London, which is being run by, I believe it's Siege Studios, a painting studio in the UK.
Yeah.
And so they're kind of putting on a little show and a painting contest.
First year.
London. First one, yeah.
Okay.
So.
And it's fun. Yeah. Good luck, have fun. Yeah. So we are somehow a 20-minute cast turned into an hour.
Well,
yeah, we've got to round it up. We're going to let Aythami go now.
Yeah,
fun, mate.
It's 12 o'clock. It's
yeah, here is 20 o'clock. But I have a lot of fun, mate, with your guy.
No, thanks for coming on again.
A million thanks.
Jamie's going to be at your course because he lives locally. Whether Pete and I can get down depends on, because it takes me 3 hours to get to that location. But the week after is World Expo, and you said you're going to be going along.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can catch up with you in person and maybe do something in person, maybe another interview or just something quick on camera where we're
smaller video.
We're all together. Yeah, which would be good.
Can't with me, mate.
Particularly, I presume you're going to have a new piece that you're going to be entering that will be
I have
revealed
a dragon that Jamie already saw, and
is it the dragon?
What? Excuse me?
I'm saying, is it the dragon that he's
no. Another
different?
dragon of my brand.
Okay.
And I'm trying to do an experiment with the base. I don't know if it's possible, but making little holes to get through smoke, system of smoke. I don't know if it is possible, but if I do it, I will show it to you.
So you're starting to release your own model range, starting with the dragon, is that, or have I misunderstood that?
I had one of a little soldier, and this is the second one.
Right. Okay.
And I will launch a third one. That's Pablo Sapia is a really good sculptor. Mm-hmm. He's working on it now. You'll see. I don't know. I like it. I always produce figures that I will love to paint.
Yeah.
Well, we'll definitely catch up with you for that then, and try and get a look at it firsthand and get some photos.
I just realised my mic was muted, but
sure. No, we could hear you.
We could hear you.
Yeah. Well, you could, but the viewers couldn't.
Oh.
I've been muting when anyway, it doesn't matter. It's really nice. It's really unique, and I think it's a good model. But you'll see, as you said, Aythami.
Yeah. Right. I hope the people like it. I hope. But if not, is a piece that I want to paint. Is my little child, and you know it when you create a piece for your brand. It's like your little child.
Yeah.
You put a lot of heart to it.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I look forward to seeing that. That'd be good.
Thanks, man.
All right. Thanks again for coming on. We appreciate your time. We kept you longer than we expected, but it's because it's been a really interesting chat.
Same to me.
Genuinely. Yeah.
Same to me, mate.
Like, subscribe, share.
all the important bits.
Yeah. Big fan of that. It's been fantastic.
Yeah,
cheers, Aythami. Thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.